So today, again, interesting agenda. So Gil Raviv is with us. I will introduce him. He will introduce himself also in a second. And also just announcements for next two sessions. So stay tuned on Meetup. So in 2 weeks, Imke Feldman. So also speaking about recursive operations in Power Query. And on June 17, we are moving to Power Platform AI Builder with Ahmed Adli, talking about how to enhance your business with Power Platform AI Builder. And for today, it's a real pleasure to introduce Gil Raviv, Microsoft MVP, and as I noticed 2 or 3 days ago, FastTrack Solution Architect. Congrats, Gil, and also you probably follow him on his DataChant blog. And today he will talk about data quality automation using Power Query and data flows. So Gil, welcome again. Stage is yours.
Thank you so much.
Sorry.
Thank you so much. Let me just share my screen very quickly.
Yeah.
Just 1 second. Okay. Let me know if you see my screen. Just the PowerPoint here.
We can. Just the PowerPoint, not in presentation mode, but in...
Yeah, let me try it in presentation mode.
Yeah, perfectly.
Okay, great. So I'm really excited to be here today. We are going to talk about a unique way to leverage the Power Query technology inside Power BI to achieve something that I think is really missing in any project that has significant data and relies on data to achieve insights or provide any business value, which is the data quality. You know, we always have the kind of notion of garbage in, garbage out in any software application, and this is of course very relevant to BI applications as well, but to any application that relies on data. And I would like to show you today how you have, I think, a unique opportunity for those of you who knows Power Query or consider what is the value of learning Power Query and get it to the next level. I want to motivate you to consider that today, because now you have more options beyond just bringing data into your Power BI reports. You have here some unique options to lead all the data quality discussions in your organization by using Power Query low code and achieve many data quality automation scenarios that are missing today. Just a bit about myself. So I work in Avanade. I lead the Power BI capability for Avanade. Fortunate to be in this position. We have in between 200 to 700 Power BI developers, depending how you count them. I also a Microsoft MVP, wrote a book about Power Query technology with Microsoft Press. It was 3 years ago, but still very relevant. So except of one chapter that is using the Facebook connector in Power BI, which was moved out of the product. Everything else in this book is 100% relevant to everything that we do today in Power BI and Power Query. You may follow me also on my blog, datachant.com. Okay, so I'll go very briefly on some rationalization about data quality automation, and then we will just move to lots of demos. And everything that you will see today, or at least most of the things that you'll see today, you'll be able to use it on your own because I released 2 Power BI apps on Microsoft App Source, which we will demonstrate, and I will show you how you can use them to get data quality done right for your projects. So just in a nutshell, why do we need data quality automation in general? So this is really trivial. I will not talk too much about it, but as you know, when you have data quality issues, you are in a position where without identifying quality in the right time, you end up identifying them when the product is already released or the product is already in relatively late stages of the game, and making changes will have lots of dependencies. So the ability to detect data quality issues on time is really important. Another notion for those of you who work with data scientists and machine learning, this is something that recently Andrew and G released in an article around why it is important for practitioners of AI to focus not only on improving and optimizing their machine learning models, but even more important in many cases is to make sure that the data quality of their training sets and their data sets are cleaned up and is effective to meet their needs. So the need to streamline the quality of their data is important in many cases, even more than the optimization and bringing all kinds of new optimized algorithms. When the data is bad, the machine learning will also not be as effective. So the fact that today data scientists need to spend up to 80% of their time in cleaning up this data makes a lot of rationalization of why it's so important to find ways to automate the data quality and the cleanup in a way that will save their time. Another interesting element about data quality automations in general. So if you work already in a large enterprise, I'm sure that you have some projects that your company is paying for some big players in data quality automation to provide for the key main mission critical projects data quality automation solutions. However, now in this session, I will show you what's your opportunities to also build something on your own, customize it with the low-code Power BI Power Query, and I believe in many cases provide a higher return of investment versus your colleagues that are using today industry-ready, out-of-the-shelf data quality solution. So here you see in terms of the projections, Gartner states that this business is just going to grow, and 60% of the organizations will leverage even machine learning enabled data quality inside their solution. Now, for those of you already familiar with Power Query, with data flows, there are some very interesting low-code, even low-code AI capabilities inside data flows that you can also leverage to even innovate around data quality solution and provide some interesting competition against the shelf solutions. You can see also that research and markets predicts that in 2027, this industry will reach $2.5 billion. Okay, so when you look in manual testing and automated testing today, right? Any application is divided into the data, the business logic, right, and the UI. And we have a lot of now technologies that allows you to develop things using either pro code, professional coding, or low code, like for example, Power Apps in the Power Platform by Microsoft is a way to provide a low code business logic to speed up the development of applications. So now in this slide, I'm just arguing that while on the middle tier where you build your business logic and you build on the right side UI with low code, the quality assurance, the testing of these elements is always either pro code, very advanced shelf products that need very specific and niche expertise to build them and probably licenses, and the time to add additional coverage of your applications through those automations probably requires sophistication and time. or you end up, because those solutions are either expensive or it takes a lot of time to develop and include additional coverage for your business logic and test it, you also end up in just a lot of manual testing. So here what we are missing is the ability, both on the data, in the data quality on the left and in the UI side on the right, to use low-code automations that will speed up and bridge the gap between completely manual versus completely slow and expensive pro-code automations. This is a very quick Gartner slide for the current industry in data quality automation. And there is, of course, one interesting thing that you can see here. If you are a practitioner of Power BI and Microsoft solutions are things that you are kind of like used to and love to work with, it is clear here, right, that there is no Microsoft solution in data quality. So in case of, if you are thinking of how can you make significant new value, unique value to your organization, now when there is no Microsoft product, but there are Microsoft low-code tools that allows you to build very fast data quality automation solutions, I think for some of you, I'm sure that this can be an interesting opportunity to consider building something for your organization and suddenly be in a position where your value is really unique. Okay, so we are going now to move to our demo session, which is, I think, much more interesting and important. I'll just give you a tease up for what we are going to see. So we are going now to show you how you can use my free app on AppSource to be able to connect, to tap into any data that you have in your organization. Use snapshots to be able to compare changes in data and run profiles over time. And to be able, using these technologies, to get some new capabilities for understanding your data and also identifying problems in your data. Okay, so let's start moving here from PowerPoint to my screen, and let's open now my Power BI environment. So you see I have here, so this is my workspace. I just want to show you, before we go into the solution itself, let's just start by installing the Power BI app that you can use. So if you will go to AppSource, Microsoft AppSource, and I will also share the link here on the chat, and you will search here for data chunk, which is my blog. You can find, oh, sorry, data chunk and search. Okay, you can find all the apps that I published on AppSource. The ones that are relevant for today's discussion are data flow snapshot analysis and data flow snapshot analysis for Power Apps. I'll cover both today. Let's start with the first, which is more relevant if you are focusing entirely on Power BI. The second one is relevant if you would like to test Dataverse entities instead of relying more on Power BI itself. So you can see you have here in this page, you can read more about the application. If you have a Power BI Pro license and you are connected into a Power BI service on the cloud through your organization, you can just click here on Get It Now. Some organizations, by the way, prohibit the usage of installing apps from AppSource. I hope that you don't work with such company. If you do, you may want to try convincing the administrators to open it up, because this is a really useful functionality that Microsoft provides. So here you can see you can just accept the Microsoft permissions to provide. Basically, when you accept this, you cannot install it without it. When you click the check, what would happen is that I as a provider of this app, I will receive your contact information. Okay, so that's the only risk that you are taking here. But I'm a nice guy, so please don't consider that as something bad. You do it, you send the information, your personal information, by the way, your contact information, you send them on any app that you install on App Store. So it's not just for me. So I will click now on continue. And now you can see I have this experience. So it asks me whether I would like, in my case, I already installed it, so I will install it again. So I want to show you a complete clean experience. So now I will go and install another copy of this app. And let's call this one, we will call this one Stuttgart test automation, data quality automation. So, okay, so that's going to be the name of the app. I will install, click install. What you're going to see now in a second. So here is the previous version that I tested. We will have a new one here. So just let's wait a bit. I'm going to delete the previous one, so I don't want to make you confused. So you see now the app is ready. It's very fast. We have the Stuttgart data quality automation. I click here. Now, before you connect to the data, you can just review this data that we have in the demo mode, just to see what you can get out of this solution. So you can see here, for example, here, I tested a specific workspace on my Power BI environment, and I tested this Power BI data flow. And I found out 16 differences in records between the different snapshots. And I can now go here to see a more detailed of the differences in records. So you can see, for example, I have here a table called categories that on April 2nd, I received all these rows were changing in the data. And these are the values that changed. So you have here a difference tool that goes over the snapshots and show you changes. Now you may say, okay, why changes in data are important in data quality automation, right? So I would say for that case, you have two main scenarios. In the first scenario, in any data quality automation, you may want to build the regression capabilities. So imagine you have some data source and you have some people working on the ETL, making all kinds of calculations and cleaning up data in the pipeline, or you have some calculations that you may have on some, let's say, Power BI reports. The ability now to tap into those artifacts, and every time something is changing in the calculations, not in the data, you want to be able to find whether there are differences, because every difference will be an actual regression, right? If you have a clean environment, a testing environment where the data never changes, then you can use this system, and every difference that you will have in any line of any record in any one of your tables will be perceived as a regression. So you can use this automation to detect those regressions. Okay, so here you can just, for example, you can say, I want only to see all the changes in my data. So I click here on the change. I have 17 records with a change. Or perhaps you would like to see areas where a next snapshot has missing records. So I click on the missing records, and now you can see these values coming from the revenues table in April 2nd. All those values in these rows, we just don't have them anymore. So here you see this is the arrow sign showing you like that there is no change. Basically, we are missing the values because the record is missing. I can also see new records, right? So sometimes this is very trivial in a production environment. You always get new records. So this way it allows you to see those records over time. And by the way, if you expect every day, for example, to have 100 new records, and suddenly you will have a peak of new records or no new records at all, then you can know that something is bad in the system and you can track it down. Okay. The last page is for profiling. We are using Power Query here to snapshot every table and run a profile, and the profile returns those seven key matrices. The average, the numerical average for every column, for every table that we analyze, the count of rows, the distinct count of unique values, the maximal value, the minimal value, how many nulls we have in the column, and what is the standard deviation if the column has numerical value. By looking on those elements over time, you can find anomalies in your data and be able to understand not just in a clean environment. In a clean environment, perhaps nothing is expected to change, so any change is a regression. But in a real life environment, everything is changing in the data all the time. However, some changes are normal, some changes are not, and you can use this visual to track those changes by using those profile capabilities. Of course, this is all customizable. So once you install this app, right? So here you see I installed the app. You can always, if you are familiar with Power BI apps or Power BI template apps as the official feature name, after you install the app, you can go, so here you see I will go to my workspace, to Stuttgart Data Quality Automation, and here, as the owner of the workspace, you can now open the Power BI report, change it to edit mode. Just for example, right, if you don't want my logo for my blog, you can delete it and add your own face instead. And everything here is editable, and you can, of course, create new pages to start understanding and making additional analysis on top of it. Okay, so after this is after you make the changes, you can go back. Let's just do save. You can now go back to the workspace, click Update App, and here you can also add the people that you want to share this report with, this app with, not the report. You click Update App, and now basically all the users that will go to the app will have the experience here with the sidebar. And of course, now you see the logo that I had here was gone. So this is updated. So now you can use that as a test quality automation and also share it with your team members or people within the organization. Now, everything here is not just for data quality automation in the context of you and your colleagues developing BI projects or developing all kinds of applications to your company. It is also very relevant for auditing purposes as well. So if you work in scenarios where you need to provide auditing to some data, some reports, for example, imagine you may have 20 Excel reports that are mission critical in your organizational, perhaps some financial reports, and every month or every quarter, a lot of people are making updates to prepare those reports, and you want over time to see what was changing across the different versions. So all this capability allows you to do that, and I can show you how. Okay, so now let's start. After we install the app and it's ready, let's now learn how we can actually use it. Not just as a demo, of course, right? So I will go back to Power BI, and I'm going now to let's create a new workspace. Okay, so I'm going now to create a new workspace. Let's call it Stuttgart Do I have here a typo? Yeah, sorry guys. It's double T here, right? Let's call this one data. Okay. Now, so I'm creating a workspace. Now this workspace will have a data flow. It's important that we all this automation, this app is based out of data flow. So we are going now to create here a data flow that will be used to review the data that we want to inspect. Now, the entire technology is based on something that you get out of the box from Microsoft. And I am sure that even if for some of you who already tried out data flows in Power BI, you probably didn't know that it exists. But let me just show you. So what I'm going now to do, I'm going to set up this workspace to connect to my Azure Data Lake storage. Now, this is an important element. You would need an Azure Data Lake in order to use this solution to support your needs. If you cannot ask your IT to get you an Azure Data Lake storage Gen 2, you can instead consider to use the second app that is working against Dataverse. But that one actually as well, you will need from IT to ask their permission to access Data Lake. So actually, yeah, I should have mentioned it from the get-go. Without an Azure Data Lake connected, this will not work. But this is a feature that Microsoft provides. It's really very useful. So let me now connect to my Azure, and I will select here my subscription and the resource group and my storage account, and I will click Save. Okay. So now my workspace is connected. Okay. This workspace is connected, and I would like now to start building the solution. Now let me show you for the demo purposes what we are going to test. Okay, so I have here under OneDrive for Business. I took from my book. Let's just bring it here. So here I have book exercises. So this is all example files for my book. You can actually go to Microsoft Press page to download them for free. And I'm going from here to take, here you see chapter 7. I would like to take this file. Let's open it up. So imagine that this is our production Excel report, you see? This is our Excel report in production. Imagine now that every day, every week, someone is making changes in this Excel. Perhaps, by the way, there is some third-party solution that using some API, you can get this data in some storage location or in any shape and format. So this will be our baseline, okay? Now, I'm going to close it for a few minutes. And I'm going to go back to the Stuttgart data workspace to start showing you now what you would need to do to orchestrate your data into the automation. So I'm now going to create a new data flow. Okay, and I'm going to start creating a new table. And I'm going to bring that Excel file. So I select Excel. And let's just now browse the OneDrive for Business. Let it load. Come on. You know, I think just to make, let me do one more thing to make it, I think, a bit faster. So you probably know, if you already use Dataflow, that some scenarios Dataflows is working better, has more capabilities when you use Premium. I'm not asking you to use premium, but I recommend that you will consider using premium per user. So now I'm going to my Stuttgart data workspace. I see it's already premium. Okay, cool. No, so this should work. So you see I'm already by default, new workspaces are created for me with premium per user. Premium per user will allow me now to build more sophisticated data flows using linked entities and such. So while it's not mandatory, you can use data flow with Power BI Pro just without linked entities. And the app that I shared with you today will work. It's not mandatory. I just wanted to think, I suspect that everything will work a bit faster for us using the premium per user, so I just make sure that it is turned on. And now I will go again here to new data flow. And let's start again. I'm creating a new table. I will select the Excel connector. And now I will browse on OneDrive. Okay. Let's go to my account. Opening the dialog. It's a bit slow. By the way, if you have any questions so far as we are waiting, you are welcome to chime in, either send over the chat or unmute yourself. Okay, so here we have all my files on OneDrive for Business. I will select the book exercise folder, and in chapter 7, the file that I shared with you is this one. So here I'm selecting it and click open. Now let's select next. And now I have the data. Let's wait a bit more and the data will load. Okay, great. So you can see we have here, let's just take a look. So now we have the option to choose between taking, here we have a name range or the actual tab. I will just take the entire tab. I see that it is a bit slow. I don't want to wait. Okay, now it is loaded. So yeah, this is the tab. You see the tab in Excel that I showed you. And I'm going to click transform data. So now I want to share with you some kind of like manipulation that I do on you today. Deliberately, I chose data that is not very cleaned up. Right, this data is already summarized with field rows and sorry, with row fields and column fields. The Excel was built basically on a kind of a pivot table already, and it is in many cases it's not very easy to analyze data when you have it in this way, right? It doesn't make sense to make any analysis on data that is already structured this way. So in your cases, if you already have data that is cleaned up and you want to use that data in order to start establishing the snapshots for the comparison and the profiling, then you would not need to do what I'm going to show you now. However, what I wanted to pitch for, and this is I think where the highest value of Power Query, is the notion that you can now bring any data, tap to any data that you have a supporter in a connector in Power Query in data flow. And even if the data is shaped so bad like the data here, you can still clean it up with Power Query and then use it as a snapshot. Okay. By the way, even if we don't want to structure the data in a nice way, we can say, this is a table, right? We have column 1, column 2, column 3. And you can also, in a very non-sophisticated way, decide that you want to make analysis and run comparisons over time across a table that will look like that. However, in our case, we want to be able to make smart data quality operation and really understand the semantic knowledge around our table. Our table in this case is revenues, and we have different columns, different values like countries and states and cities, and it will be better if you will normalize it and then do the data quality. So I will show you now how I'm going to do that. Because our focus today is data quality and not Power Query shaping, I will do it relatively fast. And if you think that I should slow down or you have any question, feel free to send a chat about it. I will not explain all the rationale of what I do, but I did cover it in many other sessions, and this is from my book, so you can consider also my book. And by the way, you have my book also translated to German, so you have no excuses. Okay, so I'm going to delete the first step, which is just changing the types, which is completely pointless. So I will delete it. You see we have here the first column is country. The second one is a kind of like state or region, and then we have the cities. I'm going to select the first two elements because you see I have null values. So I'm going to right click and select fill down. After I completed the fill down, this is really slow today. So after the fill down, I'm going now, I need to do now fill right. You see here I have colors. So this is purple. And then all these nulls basically are just purple values. Those revenues coming for products with the purple color are just in the Excel, we add nulls. And now we have gray. So this one should be gray and gray. And if I will scroll to the right, you can see this is red. So the null value here should be red, and this null value should be red. So we would need to fill right the values, but there is no fill right in Power Query, only fill down. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a transpose to do the fill right. However, there is another trick that I'm going to do now. I'm going to take the three combinations of geolocation and merge them together using a column separator. So now I just bring them all together into a single column, which will help us in the next sequence. So now I have the geolocation. I will go to the Transform tab and click Transpose, transposing the data. You see now we have here all the different geolocations, starting from the fifth column. And here you see we have in the first column is pointless. There is nothing here that is interesting, so we can just remove it. And the second and the third, column 2 and column 3, have the nulls both on the color and then on the parent category. So you see here bikes, this null it should be bikes. This null should be clothing, and this null should be components, these two. So I'm going to select these two columns and right click and again fill down. After I completed this step, I'm going now to promote the first row as headers because here we have all the geolocations are provided here. So let's just go and use first row as headers. And now comes my favorite step, which is the unpivot. Are you familiar with unpivot in Power Query and data flows? Just raise your hand if you're familiar with unpivot. Okay, Great. So we have enough people that are familiar. If you are not familiar, I hope that you will be amazed by the next step. So I'm going now to select the first three columns, which are basically color and parent category, and then a category. And I'm going now to right-click and select unpivot other columns. Now, take a look on the right side where we have, just before I do that, you see here, we have lots of columns. All of them are of the same kind. They are all revenues, and they are all revenues by the combination of the locations that we have. Okay, it's actually not just it is the location, right? We had the country, the state, province, and the city. So I'm going to select the first three columns and then right-click and select unpivot other columns. My favorite step in Power Query. I just want to tell you, like on my personal experience, 6 years ago or 6.5 years ago, I was part of the Microsoft team, the Excel team. We delivered Power Query, this technology inside Excel 2016. As I was sharing all these features with my colleagues in the Excel team, you know, Excel is a very big team in Microsoft. I shared a similar demo, and one of the guys told me, Gil, we need to leave Microsoft soon and be millionaires until we get to our retirement, just because just showing this technique to clients is a game changer and can return significant amount of value. So I'm showing you now this. You can now become millionaires. I will probably not, but you can. I enjoy too much sharing it. So this is a kind of like a secret sauce for success for many organizations that are working with Excel, and how to clean up, normalize, transform the data in the right way. So now you can see I have this data this way. I'm going now to split back my geolocation. And I'll probably have a bug here. Yeah, I have a bug in data flow. You will see now that I split only two columns. So I'm going back to the settings, advanced, and I'm going to change the number to split into 3 columns. Remember, we had country, state, and the city. Okay, so now after we do this split, we can just change the column to be more appropriate. So we added all kinds of delimiters and such. So let's just clean it up. This is category. And this is country. Let's call this one state and city. And let's call this one revenue. Okay, so now we have the data in the way that we need. Just to give you again the motivation, remember how we had the data in the first place. All right, now this data is, you know, even if you want now to build Power BI reports on top of the data that you saw earlier, you now know the secret sauce of how to transform it in a way that you'll be able to work with Power BI way better. So, you know, this is just a complete separate session that I can run with participants and people that needs to learn Power BI, wants to learn Power BI. But remember, what we did here was just taking a challenging data that is mission critical, and we want to start automating the data quality of that data. Okay, so let's now, after I clicked save and close, I want to show you what's going to happen now. So here you will now see the data flow will be saved. Let's call this one revenues. So I have the revenues data flow. Let's save it. And let's also refresh it. Oh, I forgot. That's my bad. I forgot to rename it. Never mind. Okay. So remember the table name is called sheet 1. Let's go and check out. I will close this one. And here under revenues, we can check the settings and just make sure that we have the credentials, right? This is the credentials, and the schedule. We can now do schedule refresh every day. Let's do daily refresh. Imagine that every day something can change in the data source. Somebody may modify that Excel file, so we want to be able to see it. I need to edit my credentials. Let me just quickly add the credential. So this is an organizational data source. I'm just providing my credentials. What's that? Didn't work. Come on. Not sure why it didn't work. Hopefully it's not an error. Okay. And I'm now applying schedule refresh. Okay, let's test that it works. So I will go to the workspace and click refresh. Okay, let's see if we have the refresh working. Okay, so now remember that we connected the workspace to Data Lake. I'm now going to use Microsoft Azure Storage Explorer to check out what we have on the Data Lake. So I'm opening up the Explorer, and I will go to my subscription. And here I have the data lake that we used. And you can see under the blob containers, we have the Power BI section. And here we have, you see, Stuttgart data. So this is the workspace, and this is the revenues folder. And here under model.json.snapshots, we have some information that is the definition of the schema of our table. And under sheet 1, which is the table name, we have csv.snapshots. And these are, you see here, we already have 2 versions. So the first one when we did the actual creation, and then the second refresh was working. So we have now 2 snapshots of our data. Now let's even take it to the next level. And I'm going now to show you what would happen if I will go to the Excel itself. So now I'm opening the Excel for my OneDrive for Business. And now let's choose something here. Let me just open it up. I will let you choose, as like a magician with a deck of cards, asking you to pick a card. Please pick here, let's say, pick a city and a color, and let me know which cell you would like to choose. Let's just find a volunteer, and we will change a number here in the Excel, and let's see if we will be able to detect the change. Okay, so we have someone saying P7. Let's see, P7. This is P7. You want me to add here a number? Which number would you like me to bring you? Any recommendation? Just type a number. Francesco, 222. Any other volunteer? Some data to change? Anyone? Waiting for you to give me something to change? Change 127 to Q20. Let's go to Q20. Q20. This one, and we are going to change it to this number. So again, Q20, we'll change it to this number. Okay, and we have E10 200. Okay, we have a demanding crowd today. E10. E10, we are changing this one from 50,000 to 108. Okay, so let's save this report. It is now being saved. Let's close it. I'm just checking on my OneDrive for Business that the report for my local version will be uploaded. So I waited just for the green sign here. So it was updated. It is now on OneDrive for Business. I can now go back to the revenues data flow and refresh it. Okay. Let's see. Okay, the refresh, I think, is done. Now let's check here on the data lake. I click refresh, and you see I have a third snapshot. So this is good, right? Now we are ready to start the next phase. So now for us to be able to analyze this revenue, we need to go to our application. So I'm going back to Stuttgart Data Quality Automation. And now I'm going to connect the data. So you can either do it from the wizard here or from the parameter settings. Let's just do it from here. You can do from both, it doesn't matter. So here you have several parameters that you will need to change. The first one is the account name for the Azure Data Lake. In our case, and by the way, when you install the app, you have all the instructions. So just to show you, you can go to the app after you install. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I lost it. Why can I find it? Yeah, never mind. I'll show you in a second. So here we are going to type the name of the data lake in account. In my case, it is called Data Chunk Lake. Then the data flow name. The data flow name was, let's check it out. What was, let me open it here, I even forgot. I think it was called revenues. Revenues. Here you have some parameters for performance and how much you would like to run in terms of differences. So do you want to test more than the 5 recent snapshots? Do you want to test all of them? If you want to test all of them, you can just type here -1. If you want always just the latest 2, you can type 2. If you want 10, just up to you. Of course, if you work with very large data sets, you have some limitations. It will be very slow. So you may want to consider the balance between fast refresh to coverage of a wider data set. And I explain it on my blog, so I will give you the reference as well. And here, this is the important part. Here we would like to include, there is an Excel file that I share on my instruction page. Let me just show you how the Excel looks like, because you would need it. You would need it for this solution. So I have here. Let's just put it. Where did I put it? Just 1 second. Not here. I have one that is already ready for us to use. Here it is. Okay, so this is the data flow table keys. It's an Excel file that you would need to set in order to make the automation working. What we would like to do basically, let me delete this part, or actually I will save it. Let's call this one this Stuttgart keys. So this file is basically for all the tables that you have in your data, you would need now to tell the automation how you define a record. What are the keys in your columns that together, the combination of all the unique values of those keys will define a unique record. In many cases, you already have a single column like a product ID, so you will use only that column because you know every record in a product table, a product ID is unique and it will be sufficient to be used. In our table, we basically have, let's go again to the data flow to show you what we can use in order to define our composite key. So in our data, we have the revenues table, revenues data flow, and here we have color, parent category, country, state, city, and revenue. Basically, the key is the combination of all the columns except of the revenue. So we would need to provide in the Excel all these column names: color, parent category, country, state, and city. The order is not important, so I can remove these. Let me do it this way. Country, state, city, category. Okay, so now this one is correct. However, in our demo, in our data, the table name is called sheet 1. So I'm going to save it this way. And now after I save it on my OneDrive for Business, okay, I'm also going to obtain the link, the URL. I need the URL. So you see, I'm going here to info, copy path. And now I will go back to my parameters and I'm going to paste the path for the Stuttgart Excel. And you need to omit the web equal 1 parameter because this will not work. So now we have the link to the Excel file. And the workspace name was also called Stuttgart data, right? That was the name. That was the name of our workspace. Let's see again. Yeah, Stuttgart data. So I can click apply. Okay, so now I apply these parameters. And hopefully, if I did everything correct, I can now go to the data source. And why it is not working, let's just do refresh. Okay, so now I will edit the credentials. This is for my Stuttgart keys Excel file. So I will use OAuth 2 and it's organizational and I will sign in. Okay, and the other one is my data lake. Now here with the data lake, you have two options to connect to the data lake. You will need permissions to access it, right? This is something that if you cannot do it on your own, you will need to ask IT to provide you access. You have two options. One is to ask them to obtain the key. Another one is to use you as an Azure Active Directory user, and your account will be associated, and that will work as well. So I use OAuth and sign in, and I will use my account to log in using OAuth 2. And now I can go to the workspace again. Come on, doesn't work for some reason. So I will go now to my workspace. Okay, let's go to the application, Stuttgart Data Quality Automation. And hopefully now a refresh will work. So now we let it work. Now this will work from now on. You can set it up every day as well to be equivalent, to work a bit later after your data flow that collects the data is working. So this one will work as well. So now it is being refreshed. And by the way, just to check up on my time, do I have still 27 minutes? How much time do we have?
Yeah. It's booked till 7, so you can actually continue and also just leave some time for questions.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you. Okay. So the refresh worked, and now we can go to the report. And you can now see, let's go to the summary. So we had 2 changes and 1 new record that we detected. They were made in sheet 1 table, so we can see it here as well. We have here a snapshot for the changes that we have made. You can see we added, if you will go to the chat, you will see that hopefully it is correct, right? So in one element we added the 2 to 2. Then we changes 50,000 to 108. You see 108 also on the chat, and we change another number to 48977, which is also in the chat. Yes, it is. Okay. So now we can see this is the difference view. We can see the actual changes here. Of course, right, if you will have more data, you'll be able to slice and dice and see different elements. And here in the profile, since this is the first time that we had that we did a refresh, this is for today, right? So next week when it works again, or tomorrow when it works again, we will have here another point in time to start collecting the key KPIs for profiling. Okay, so that's all work for us. So I can go back now. Let's even show you some, for example, nice things that you can do that are not part of the out-of-the-box visualization. So I can go now to the edit mode and create a new page. And in this page, you see all the model. I will go to the diffs details. And here I have also a column called row. You see this column provides us the concatenated values that we have in the data. So now if I will go, and you see each cell is a combination of all the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the 6 keys that we had in the Stuttgart keys Excel file are combined here and concatenated. So now I can go, and if I will, for example, show you the row changes, not the row changes, sorry, where was that, the differences? So I have, these are the number of differences, and I have here also the changes. Okay, so that's now, so this is another view, allowing you in the original view that I had because of time saving of the real estate. Here, I didn't want to include all the keys, so you can see the row number. Okay, so here you see, oh, we have a change in row number 7. Let's just check it out. You would need now basically not to go to the original Excel. You would need to go to the file that was changed. Right? You will need to go to basically to the data flow, extract data in the data flow in order to see this change. Okay, to find row 7. Because we did transformations, right? The original Excel file with the original rows is not the same as this one. But here we can also identify, right? We have, for example, a new row was added, and we added the number 71. Let's find it out. all we need to know now is to find the combination of color multi, clothing, caps, United Kingdom, England, etc., and we will get this one. So let's just try it out. I will open the Excel file, right? And if I will go here and look for multi, so this is the multi column. And if I will go to clothing caps, and I will go to Gloucester, whatever, sorry for my bad pronunciation. Now you'll see, right, this is this column. So even when row 71 is not longer row 71 in the original data set, it's only row 71 in the prepared data set, this way you can use the combination of keys to find where the change is made. Okay. Any questions so far?
Some questions popped up in the chat.
Yeah, if you want to control multiple columns, of course you can do that. It's not just one column. I can prove it to you. Let's just, for example, to do that, of course, this data is not relevant anymore, right? But we can now go and bring another one, and let's use this one, call it a product, and then color, and then amount, and you have here 1, 2, 3, and perhaps also product name. And this one will be shoes and bikes and let's just do a dish. I don't have any. Okay, so now we can have red, blue, and green, and some amounts. We can have another color. You see now it's going to be easy. I'm going to have a data with only a product ID here. This is a product ID. Okay, so it's going to be easy. And now let's have also a cost. So this will be 1, 5, and 9. And let's take this table. I don't even need to create it a table. I can just keep it as is as a sheet. Let's save it. I'll go back to the data flow. So we have Stuttgart data. And here I'm going to the revenues. I will edit the Power Query. And I'm going now to add a new source, for the Excel. Actually, yeah, let's see if I can do it faster. I can actually do it faster. So let me just do a duplicate here. Let's call this one table. Let's call this one products. And I'm going to remove everything and just keep sheet 2. I'm doing it a bit quickly without the UI just because the UI will take us a bit more time. So this is product 2. Let's see. This is products, right? Let's promote first row as headers. Now remember, we are doing also data profiling. For data profiling, it's important when you create the initial snapshot also to define the type. So here you see, like, Microsoft provide us automatically the type definition, which is good for us because now when we have amount as a number, we will be able also to show standard deviation and average and mean and max. And otherwise on textual content, you don't have standard deviation. So now we have those two numerical amounts will get also changes in profiling. So let's save it and close. And I'm going now back to my Excel, the keys. I'm going to add here another table, products, and the product ID is the only key, right? Products and product ID. We can save it. And now I'm going also, let's close this Excel file. So sometimes the refresh may not work because the Excel is being open. So I closed it. Now it is saving. Let's do a refresh. Now this version on AppSource supports only one data flow. If you want to analyze multiple data flows, you would need to install different apps. You can install many apps and just will have multiple workspaces, each for a single data flow that you would like to analyze. However, you can still bring to the same data flow lots of tables, and this way you can still use it on a bit larger scale. So now you see we have the products. Let's refresh it. So I'm going to refresh the revenues data flow. And now we can also go to the Azure File Explorer, Storage Explorer, to see under revenues. You see now we have a new table for products. So this is the products. We already have one snapshot here, which is great. So we are in a good state. We can now go back. Let's go back again to the Excel file. The Excel file was, where was it? Sorry. So I'm now opening the original, the source, right? We had this sheet 1 and sheet 2. Now let's just change something here. So let's make the first cost will change from 1 to 2. And let's change 20 to 40. And let's also add here a car number 4. And this one will be a yellow. And it will cost 10,000. And the cost is 5,000. Like that's the price and the cost. Okay, so I made these changes. I added another record. Let's actually also delete. Let's also delete the dish. Okay, and let's change the blue. Let's add a typo. So it will be blue. There is somebody make a mistake in the data and the column now as a typo. So I'm saving the file. I'm going back now to the data flow. So let's go to the app and refresh it. Let's see. Now, if you have refresh errors at this stage, it's most likely something in the configuration file, in the Excel files, in the keys is wrong, is not matching. These are the most common errors that you may have. And of course, if you try it and it doesn't work for you, you're welcome to contact me and ask any questions. I will help. As we are waiting for the refresh to complete, I wanted also to send you two resources that you can read if this is something that is interesting. So the first one I'm sending you on the chat. So this is the instructions and the details for the app that I showed you now. And the second one is for the app that I released several days later for the Dataverse. The Dataverse version works the same, but there are some minor variations, including, by the way, with the Dataverse, you do have the ability to analyze as many data flows that you want, not just a single data flow, but the limitation is for a single environment in Power Apps. So you work with a single environment, and all the data flows in that environment can be analyzed just by providing. Now in the Excel file, you will have also another column for the data flows as well. not just tables and columns. Okay, so by defining that, you will be able to analyze. The user experience is the same. You just have another dimension now for the data flow as well to slice and dice. And you have here all the instructions also how to do that with Dataverse. If you are familiar with Dataverse, in Dataverse, it is going to work after you connect the Dataverse into Azure Data Lake. You must use the Azure Data Lake, and you need to use the Power Apps data flow that are connected to the data lake. And this way, just to show you, basically, what does it mean to have a data flow in Power Apps that connects to data lake? The feature name is called Analytics Data Flows. So let me just sign in to show you. Basically, what you would need to do is to go under data. Let me just, I think I always get it wrong. Let's do, is it like, I think it's make.powerapps. Yeah, I think it's make. There is create and make. I always get them wrong. So here under make.powerapps.com, you have under data, you have data flows. Okay. And you can now create here, when you create a data flow that you want to analyze, by the way, you don't need to create new ones. If you already work with data flows that are connected to data lake, you can start using them because the snapshots capability is already available and you have those snapshots on your data lake. So here you can see the way to work with it is to create data flows that the type will be analytical. The analytical data flows are obtained by creating a new data flow. And then, just to show you test, you will need to select the analytical entities only. And then in the destination, this is important, you will need to select the destination, the data lake that you work with. Once you have this combination, you will have on the data lake all the snapshots, and this will work in the same way that the Power BI data flows are working. Now let's go back to our Power BI and see if the refresh worked for us. It is still refreshing. Okay, it completed the refresh. And you see now in the summary, we now have also products, not just sheet one, also the product table. I can select the product table and see if I have any changes, any profile changes over time. Let's just review it in more detail. So I actually don't have any. Let me refresh. Yeah, it didn't identify any change for some reason. Probably I forgot to. Let's just try again to go back to the student to this workflow and refresh it again and see if it will work. Let's see. Perhaps I didn't define the keys in the right way. Product ID is defined correctly. Yeah. So after the refresh, I can go back. Just 1 second. The refresh completed. Yes, it was completed. I can go back to the app. And let's refresh one more time. Hopefully it will work. Any more questions?
So also, as I saw in the chat, Francisco was asking regarding the cost of data lake of refreshes.
The cost of the data lake. I'm not familiar with the actual prices. Let's find together data lake. Data lake is very, very cheap. The way that you work with it is you will define. My recommendation, you make sure that the data lake data center that you define will be the same as the Power BI, and then you don't have any significant cost on moving the data from your data lake into Power BI and such, or to moving the data from your external source. So basically, if you already have data on the cloud, you would try to bring your data lake to be closer to that source. I also wanted to say, in my opinion, with regard to data quality, it's not important to bring all the data in anyway. It's more important to have good, smart decision of what you want to snapshot from your data. So even if you have a terabyte of data or 2 terabytes of data, and you want now to build an automation, find a smart way to bring only 10,000 records, 100,000 records. Sometimes even 10 records may be enough if you do the right filtering and you think about it in a smart way. This will allow you the data. You're not going to pay significant amount on the data movement, only on the storage, and the storage is very cheap, right? So the pricing should be relatively insignificant. Okay, so you see this is like, let me just share with you this link. Okay, and again, the main assumption here is that for many of the users, that you already have Power BI, you already consider data flow in your organization. You may already use data flow. So now the discussion of bringing a data lake inside can be something relatively very trivial. Okay, so let's go back and see if the demo worked or not. We'll do refresh. Oh, okay, so we have the typo, blue, and a missing record, green, that we deleted, and a new record for the car. And now this was working. Let's check the profiling. So you'll see in the okay. So if the profiling, you see this is actually interesting to share with you. In this default experience, I used the date on the x-axis, so now we cannot see differences between the two snapshots because we made them on the same day. But you can now go to edit mode and create a completely scratch a new page. And here in the snapshots, you have, if I remember correctly, the refresh number. So there is a refresh number that you can use. And let's just use it as a table. So we will have the refresh number. And now I will bring let's bring from the profiling, we are going to bring, let's bring the average and the standard deviation. Okay. And now you'll see why I have refresh number 11 here. I should probably, don't summarize. Okay. So now you can see we had a total of 5 refreshes. Let's bring, also the table name. So the table name is here. Okay. So for products, we had 2 refreshes only, and you can see how significantly the average has changed over time. Right, so now I can take this and paste it here, and I can now change it into a trend line. And you can see, in this case, this is the change in average in products. So imagine now if you have multiple snapshots and you want to see it over time, the profiling allows you to do that. Now, by the way, just to give you a nice motivation to even, to start building profiling capabilities on your own, even without my app, when you open Power BI desktop and you're working with Power Query, there is an M function called table.profile that actually provides you this kind of analysis. So you don't even need to be a very advanced Power Query practitioner in order to make it working. So let me just show you very quickly. I will have here, let's just enter here some data, A, B, 1, 2, and I can now, let's say this is my report. I can now create here another step called table.profile and run it on my table. And you see we will have the column name, the min, max, average, standard deviation, count, null count, all the data per table, per column in the table. So this is the technique that I used on my app to do the profiling. Okay, a very simple way. Now you can use it also on your own reports to get some snapshots for your data. Okay, it will not give you the differences between records, of course, only for the profiling of the main matrices, but I think it can be very useful as well. Okay, so I think we can wrap up.
I think you did.
If you have any questions, I can stay longer.
Yeah, you did a great job, Gil. Thanks very much for your time and for a great demo. So at least from my side, I know I'll start use it from tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, and if there are any questions, please either unmute yourself, write it down in a chat, so we can still spare a minute or two for any questions. If they're not, so you have a lot of great feedback on the chat also, Gil. So I think the topic was great and interesting. So, and with really not a lot of effort, everybody can use it and can really utilize interesting information about data loads and everything. So if there are not questions, so I would wrap it up quickly. So thank you, Gil, again. And if you missed the session or if you want to check it again and use it together when you are building an app next week or tomorrow, you can see this, grab the session on a YouTube channel. Also join us on a Stuttgart Power Platform user group, and see you in 2 weeks again and in June for a new interesting session. So thanks again for everybody. Thank you, Gil, and have a nice evening and have a nice weekend, of course.
Thank you. See you, Augustine.
See you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.